Hey guys, welcome back to Mimir. I don't know about you, but 2026 for me is certainly earning its title as Year of the Fire Horse. I truly feel like I've been riding a fire-breathing horse bareback at full speed, and I'm just here holding on to the mane for dear life as he's literally burning down everything of what used to be. And if you feel the same way, then this episode is for you. Last week, I sat down with Allie Stark, and it ended up being one of the most useful, fun, and fulfilling conversations I've had in a good minute. Allie coaches ambitious women through big chapters of growth and change, and she put articulate language on that experience. The way of being that got you here isn't going to get you there. And the in-between, the part where the old self is leaving and the new one hasn't shown up yet, is messy in ways nobody really warns you about. For some of us, it's dramatic, for others, it's not. But I think it's universal for everyone, especially us founders. We cover a lot in this episode: the feminine economy, what it looks like to build a business on generosity and reciprocity instead of grinding, the kind of leader who can actually change you, why entrepreneurship is essentially identity work in disguise, and the single most concrete exercise to do during times of change that I did over the weekend and can attest it's amazing. But the part of this conversation that genuinely changed how I'm thinking about my life right now was when I told Allie my deepest fear, which is, what if I work so hard, but I still don't get what I want? She didn't hand me a pep talk. She asked the question back at me, but like sideways. What if you could be more playful and still get what you want? And I've been thinking about that in every single instance of my life since. One who runs on hustle and worries it might not actually work, that question is this whole episode. For the early stage founders listening, especially the women, we are in a wild, transformative cultural moment. And if the old way of doing things doesn't fit anymore, then this episode is exactly what you need. Allie hands you a softer way of asking the question and a few real ways of meeting yourself in the middle. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Maddie. Thanks for having me.
I have been looking forward to this conversation since our one-on-one off air. You just got my brain running in like a million different directions, and truly I left being like, I cannot wait to learn more from you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to dive in.
So you started practicing yoga at a very early age and then teaching at 15, which seems crazy. I can't imagine. I feel like it'd be fun to be taught by a 15-year-old, but like you probably had to have been really, really good to do that.
Oh my God. It's so true. It's funny. It's like when I was doing it, it felt like it totally made sense. Retrospectively, when you say it like that, looking back on it, I'm like, what 15-year-old would I trust to be my yoga instructor? But it worked. It worked somehow. I mean, Maddie, I turned 40 last month, and I'm just feeling like who I am in terms of my years matches my soul. Like, I'm like, it's just making sense a little bit. So I think that I was always kind of an old soul, and it like logically made sense, but you'd be like, yeah, who's this teenager that's teaching us a class? So.
No, I totally relate to that. I feel like, did you get a lot when you were growing up? Like, oh, you're so mature for your age, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's like you can get that, but you still don't actually have the lived experience, right? You're still only however old you actually are. So I think it's almost like, I don't know, the way that I relate to it is like sometimes you meet people where you're like, it's their first time around the block. Like they feel like it's like, oh, it's a young soul. It's like a soul that kind of is like just doing life for the first time. And I've always felt a little bit like maybe I'm in a later rendition. My soul is in a later rendition, but it doesn't counterbalance that I would have only had 15 years of lived experience in this body. We're starting off very woo.
No, this is like where I live on a daily basis. So it's not woo to me at all.
Great.
This is truly like what I think about all the time. So I think we're just starting off really aligned.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it's so, sometimes I also feel like when you meet younger souls, and also that's not a bad thing. I just think it's like, it's the first rendition. When I kind of like put that conceptually together for myself, I was like, oh, this is so sweet and so beautiful. There's a reframe in terms of how you relate to yourself and to other people, I think, because of that. And we just keep coming back until we learned what we need to learn, healed what we needed to heal.
Isn't that the truth is that I think about that probably 4 times a week, where I'm like, am I going to come back again? Am I doing the things that I'm supposed to do? So hopefully I can continue to evolve. But I'm not even kidding. I think about that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, we could go on so many tangents. I have lots of thoughts about this, but we can or we cannot, depending upon what you desire.
Yes, let me finish. I'll finish asking you the first question because I got so excited. So after you were teaching yoga, you got your master's in integrative health, and then you've sort of evolved into a coach for founders and entrepreneurs. And seeing this from like a bird's eye perspective, I'd love to understand how you made the transition from health to coaching in this way. Like, I think perhaps it's a through line of general wellness and like alignment and how that impacts your health. But I'd love to hear from you sort of how you saw that transition and how you saw that evolution.
Yeah, beautiful question. It's interesting that you're asking me this because I just started to work with this new branding woman. And, I've had my business name since I began, which is now like almost 20 years ago. And I was like, wellness really doesn't match it. I just haven't shifted the name. I think if I were to look at it from this bird's eye view, I really feel very fortunate that I have lived a life. It's sort of like the path chose me. I didn't really choose the path. And of course, I made the choice to engage with the path that was choosing me. So it's not like completely passive, but I do feel like my set of life circumstances, being a very sensitive kid, dealing with a lot of chronic autoimmune, pretty complex illness at a very young age. I think I've always kind of like my internal world has been very dynamic and complex, and I didn't really know what to do with it. That I think because of that, I was given the benefit, whether it was through parenting or models that I had in my life, to really like have inputs that spoke to these different parts of me. Hence why yoga was a part of my life at such a young age. And so when I went to get my master's degree, I went because I was really sick and I was being failed by Western medicine and we couldn't figure out what was going on. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go get this master's degree that was pretty like avant-garde at the time. It felt pretty out there. I remember both my parents saying like, are you sure you want to pay for that $80,000 degree that's like in wizardry and witchcraft? Watching my dad at my graduation, he was just like, what the fuck happened at this school? Anyway, and there was a coaching at the time, there was a coaching certification that was built into that degree, but it was in health coaching. And so, sort of as things unfolded, I think that I've just continued to get more and more interested in the root cause of things. So, our health is a symptom of deeper things going on. Our relationships, our environments, are we values aligned? How do we make decisions and take risks? What's that internal intuition or calling or sense of meaning and purpose that we're seeking? So, I feel like that became much more interesting to me. And then, as I did that work and was in my own leadership and growing my own business and scaling it and hiring a team, I really felt like where the impact for me lies is in supporting people in their leadership, because then they get to support their teams and their teams then show up differently. It's not just in the work they do, it's in how we treat one another. It's in how you engage with your family members when you go home. And I'm like at my fundamental deepest point, I'm sort of like, how can I have the greatest impact for like being a tiny little part of people being kinder, more reciprocal, more generous, more loving, et cetera, et cetera. So that was kind of the arc. And the last thing I'll say is, as my business grew, that's who became attracted to me, was female entrepreneurial leaders. Like, I really think that in the type of work that I do, personal development, leadership development, spiritual well-being, who is attracted to you is those people that are mirroring the current path that you're on. And you really only need to be a step ahead of them in your own development to be able to support them.
Yeah, I really understand what you're talking about, because a lot of the reason why I built the podcast was similar. Like, I wanted to understand how I could impact and help founders, because to me, like, they're building incredible futures and I want to be a part of the cycle that supports them. And I have been on the receiving end of excellent leadership in somebody who is caring and considerate, but pushes you to be better. And I know like how much that permeates every aspect of your life. You go home and you feel better and you're more motivated, like not just at work, but outside. And I do think that it has such a major impact on people. And when you think about life holistically, and even not like if somebody's listening and they're not following this at all, I think like baseline, you spend the majority of your time at work, more so than you do with your family or your partner or your kids. And as a result, if it is not fulfilling, that is literally impacting your life in a crazy way, whether or not you want to acknowledge it. And if even if you think about just like improving that one aspect with with your relationship with your leader, it will impact your life in a much more positive way.
I'm so happy that you've had a model in your life that was, because it's actually very rare. And, you know, you spoke to Maddie, something that I think is so important is it's not just like a compassionate, empathetic, and sensitive leader. That's the half of it. The other half of it is someone that holds the bar high, someone who sees the potential in you that you can't maybe actualize yourself and is like, step up. And, you know, I think it's like, that's how we want leaders to be. And that's how we want our parents to be. And that's how we want our loved ones to be with us. Like, I really think there's something about you can actualize like the greatest, your highest potential by surrounding yourself with people that really set the bar high. And when you fail and fall on your face, they're like, no big deal, get up and do it again.
Yeah, that's exactly how she was with me. Every time I would, make a mistake or something, she was always so quick to diffuse it. And also, if it was major, like she would step in front and accept responsibility. And that honestly made me want to work harder because I don't ever want to have to put her in that position.
So beautiful.
Yeah, you feel like it's okay to make mistakes because you're still learning. But at the same time, really, like you want to do them proud. And that is such a fun experience to have. And like, I truly want everyone listening to have that. And if you're an entrepreneur and you have the ability to lead a team, like that is the kind of energy that you want to be bringing to your people.
Yeah, I just think it's so, we want to be in environments that allow us to mess up and then to recover from the mistake, right? And to me, that's like the ongoing evolution of being alive. Like I continuously want to be making mistakes because it means that I'm taking risks. It means that I'm pushing my edges. It means that, and having people in my life that give me feedback where I can like take responsibility and ownership and do better. Like to me, that's the whole point.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So, okay, before I kind of get into the how you help leaders and like the how of it all, you mentioned that you're going through a branding exercise. I would kind of love to also understand why now, like where you're seeing this evolution going, what brought this to the surface, all of that good stuff around that. Just, I think it might be really interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always like laugh about is anytime you do a rebrand, by the time the rebrand comes out, the photos, the website, the new logo, whatever it may be, you've kind of like because it's typically a 6 to 12 month process. Like it just takes time to do a branding exercise well. I've always found that by the time it launches, you're like a new version of yourself. And then you're like, okay, I just spent $10,000 to $15,000 and I'm just going to like let this live and be for a while. In the last few years, I think a couple of things have happened. You know, Maddie, what we spoke about offline is like, we're just in this like collective moment of extreme growth and acceleration and transformation. So I feel like that's been happening since my last rebrand. I became a mom and the woman that I have started working with has shifted. And so the language on my site, I don't think like the branding itself is still fine. Like if I really wanted to kind of nitpick, I would go and rebrand. But to me, it's actually the archetype, the language, and the narrative that I'm telling on my site isn't actually who I'm working with anymore and the way that I'm working. So that's kind of part one of the exercise of really getting to define, call in, and create. I don't know, I almost want to say like the vibrational field of who I'm working with, because when that language is really clear and congruent, then you attract more of that. And then I think I've always been seeking in my business. I have like this amazing fractional COO. She truly is like the reason my business runs. And I feel like we've always been missing like a fractional CMO because I am interested in marketing my services. Like, I don't want to be a content creator. I'm not big on social. I don't like photographing my life. It's not even, I'm not even a private person. It's actually just the quality of my presence. I
Yes.
don't want to be on my phone all the time. And so you start to really think about like, what are the ways that I can organically market that feel authentic and in alignment with myself to make myself visible. So anyway, I found this incredible woman. She like got me immediately because I think that part of what I'm moving into is a little bit of letting the clairvoyant oracle part of me be at the forefront for the work that I do. Like that feels like I want to be more mystical and more witchy. I think it's like it is kind of like I can't help it. It's just happening. And I feel like she got me right away. And so we're working a little bit on both like what's the language that we're going to recreate on the site itself and also in any marketing materials, how I'm writing newsletters, etc. Secondarily is how can she operate as a fractional CMO and help create opportunities for marketing that actually feel kind of old school and a little more aligned with who I am. Partnerships, in-person events, etc., etc.
That's really fun. I actually am really, I feel like this conversation is wild because you're saying so many things that I've been thinking about totally separately or just like in other ways. And it's been making itself very apparent to me recently. And one of them is this difference where I think like as leaders and business owners, we're trying to plan in advance. And maybe this is also just like a me personality thing, but I always try to look at my situation and sometimes plan ahead and like see different scenarios and then like create plans for each of those different scenarios. So then like whatever I'm faced with, like I have the path forward.
Mm-hmm.
And to also say like I don't rely too heavily on my brain. I think I definitely still rely on my gut to give me direction. It's my compass. But I think I'm being called recently to be even more present. And I keep saying like in my body when things are happening around me, like actually be present, observe, because the answers will come to you naturally through that way if you're there to listen. So, like, instead of spinning my wheels ahead of time, just stop, watch, and then feel. And like the answers will make themselves apparent. And the alternative has gotten me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a situation where, because of the time that we're in with all of this rapid change and growth, that potentially now this is that way of doing things was no longer serving me. So I feel like I'm just being asked to act and think and feel in a different way. And I wonder if that's going to also serve me better as things like get more and more chaotic. Like you can't always be spinning your wheels.
I mean, the fact that you're aware of this is like massive kudos to you. And I think that we go through these iterations. And this is not just like as a business owner or a leader. I think this is as a human being, as a partner, as a mother, whatever it is. If you are awake, you go through regular inflection points in your life of what got you here is not going to get you there. And like another way of kind of naming it would be it's an outdated operating system that served you very well. And also, it may have been self preservation or it's what kept you safe from a young age. And then suddenly it's like it doesn't work because what it winds up actually doing is feeling like force or control or grasping or over efforting. You know, it's like I'm currently in, which I'm happy to go into if desired, but I feel like I'm in like a pretty profound moment of outdated operating system, but I'm not quite embodied in the new operating system yet. And so there's like a lot of emotions there's a lot of grief. There's a lot of like reckoning with some self betrayal. Maybe sounds a little bit dramatic, but I'm not actually convinced it is. It's just sort of like, I, I can't operate in a way that I once did because it doesn't serve the next chapter of my work and of my life. And so you're kind of saying goodbye to an older identity.
Mm.
And I think to your point, this feels like a bit more fast and furious because of the cultural moment that we're in where things are rapidly changing in real time.
Yeah, I please dive deep into this because I think, I don't know who thinks of this or like who listens to this kind of stuff, but I'm sure it's the year of the horse, fire horse,
Yeah.
like all of that stuff. And I truly feel like I this year have been on the back of a horse who's galloping at full speed. It's bareback. I have no stirrups. Like I'm straight up holding on to the mane and just riding for dear life. And I'm like doing everything I can to keep the momentum and hold on. But it is a lot to navigate. And so I'm sure
It's
a
a
lot of
lot.
other people are feeling that. And it's manifesting, I think, in a lot of not just change in how our lives are physically, like what you're working on and how that's changing, but even like as people, there's a lot of growth that's coming to the surface.
I'm happy to share a little bit about what's going on. I'm just having a chuckle because I feel like I was with a girlfriend the other day and she was like, "Yeah, it's the fire horse." But does that actually mean that the horse is breathing fire at us, burning things down? Like I was like, that feels more accurate for this year. And it's also funny because I'm a Pisces and my feed has been, I just like chuck, it's like, it is like the year of the Pisces. And I'm like, is it though? Like, that's not been, and I think also it's like, how do you interpret this information, et cetera? I've just been having a little laugh though, too, because I'm like, for me, it just feels like this year of like rapid evolution. Kind of in its briefest version, I'll just tell a little story, is that in the last month, I was single. I have a 14-month-old baby. I was single parenting for a little over 2 weeks. My husband was in Africa for work, which that in and of itself, I would have been fine. It's like I had the systems, to your point, Maddie, I had the system set up. It was organized. I had support, et cetera, et cetera. And I was working full time. But what happens is life is dynamic and unexpected. So it's like, there was like childcare stuff that showed up. And then way more significantly, what started to happen is where I normally have greater tolerance, I stopped having it because I was really at capacity managing like being the only parent and working full time while trying to also like take care of myself and work out every once in a while, et cetera.
Be a person.
And so I had these two kind of like insanely challenging conversations with my brother and my mom throughout the last month that it was sort of like something that had been building for years and years and years. And not that I wasn't saying things in real time, but it was like these nuanced, subtle ways that I tolerate outdated behavior, that I'm people pleasing, that I overgive, that I don't have great boundaries. And it's funny because I'm an exceptional boundaried person. So it's like these are these like old relationships, right? And they kind of came to the breaking point. I had two separate conversations. And after each of them, I spent the night throwing up. And at first I was like, okay, I have food poisoning or I have a stomach virus. And then kind of like retrospectively, and this just happened the last month. So I'm very much in process with this. I'm like, wow, I am purging an old way of being. Like that is how like kind of full on. I mean, I literally like conversation happened that night, vomited all night. Both twice.
God.
And so this week, I'm now home. My husband is back. I'm not puking anymore, etc. I'm starting to integrate it. And I've been just like so tender. I mean, just like I can finally feel the feelings because I'm not having to like take care of a bunch of stuff. And I've just felt like, kind of like my insides are on the outside and really tender because I think that it's like that old operating system, if that's the language that you're using, has like literally left my body. And the new one hasn't really landed yet. And so I'm kind of in this space between stories, this transitional state. And there's like a lot of, I don't know, maybe reckoning. Like one of the things I was reckoning with is just that I learn in a sort of dramatic way. Like I evolve exponentially. And I don't think this is like right or wrong or good or bad or like, I just think that I unconsciously design experiences for my exponential growth and they punch me in the face.
Yeah.
And then I think that's what I just did, where it was like 2 weeks solo, then a week in Arizona, taking care of my parents post-surgery. It was just like, of course this was going to happen now. And I could have changed how I planned it, but I kind of think that it was all happening for me. Like, anyway, you're catching me in process. I hope this isn't totally off topic, but I think that when we're in stages of growth, I think it should look really messy. I just think that's the inherent nature of it. And I think it's super vulnerable and really tender. And I also think that if you let yourself be in that, I've just been letting myself like cry in the car every day.
Yep.
Eventually,
Yep.
the new system shows up and then you're empowered. And so I'm like, cool, let me just cry it out as much as I need until that's here.
I don't think this is off topic because actually, what I'm seeing and kind of what you're bringing out for me, because also, side note, so basically, since the start of the year, like every month, almost like clockwork, towards the middle or end of the month, I've been getting a cold. And the way that you're describing your experience is making me be like, because this has never happened to me. So I was like, either the colds this year are just actually crazy, or to your point, I think maybe there's something going on where I like speed up and then I have to slow down.
Yes.
And then I speed up and I have to slow down again. And after this, I'm going to do a lot of thinking because I think there's something deeper here. But I think what you're bringing to the surface and what I think makes this almost like full circle for this conversation that we've had so far is you really need to look at things holistically.
Mm-hmm.
I think like where my mind is going and where I'm very excited about this conversation is that like everything is happening for us. There's nothing really that is truly random, and everything is working in synchronicity in some way, shape, or form to assist us through these transitions and through growth to bring us to, if you're paying attention and if you're like doing all, being true to yourself, then moving you in alignment and continually like course correcting in very minute or dramatic ways. And I was chuckling earlier because I literally wrote in a Substack last week that when change is coming, the universe is not subtle about it with me at all. Like,
and it is with certain people. And again, I want to be really clear that it's like one is not better than the other. I think that it's just how you experience change. Like to go back to the very beginning of like our souls, like I think that it's kind of like it's dharmically laid out for you. And the term dharma, that's like a Buddhist term. It's really sort of like your reason for being. And I think that based off of your reason for being, change hits you differently. And yeah, I'm always amazed when it's so unsettled where you're like, I got it. Okay. I got it.
Clear. Noted. Okay, well, I think to go sort of back to what we were talking about in the beginning is like your process and how you think holistically and your experience and like how does that translate to the way that you work with leaders. And something also that we talked about off air that I want to pick your brain about and like have the people also hear is you talk about the feminine economy. And I would love for you to like define that and what that means in your practice.
So I love the coolest thing about my work is I feel like as I change and I evolve, it changes and evolves. So I like to say I have a framework that I do work within. It's not like this rocket science framework, like I'm not a huge, like if you do these 3 steps, that's just not how I orient to life because I also feel like change is slow, like actual change and transformation is slow. It is the accumulation of like a lot of micro movements happening over a repetitive period of time. But I do like to say, and I honestly think anyone could apply this to their own work, but the framework that I have is this like unlearning piece. You could also call it an excavation piece, which is like what is currently there in the moment in time that you're in that is conditioning, limiting beliefs, or kind of an old narrative, ways of being that are no longer serving you. As we've talked about, what that existed in your 20s and in your 30s and your 40s and ongoing, it's constantly changing. So there's always this opportunity to like unlearn, undo, excavate that which is no longer true. And I do that through a myriad of different ways. And then there's this awakening part, which I think for me is the most fun, where I'm like, I am really someone that thinks like life is filled with endless possibilities. And the way I orient is like, I want my soul to feel set afire all the time. And I want to support and it doesn't have to be in this like burning, I'm burning my life down, but just like, how can I feel the most invigorated, the most enlivened? And so a huge thing that I do is really support women to kind of assess creatively in their business, where are you feeling alive right now? Where old parts of yourself that maybe like you loved collaging when you were younger, or you loved getting up on stage. Like, how do we bring all of those pieces that activate you and embolden you and are a bit brazen, and really like throw that spaghetti on the wall to see like what's working, what's not working, and where are you also kind of like what amplifies you and what detracts from you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's this like awakening process. And then the alignment piece is me being very strategic. So something that I really value about the work that I do and how I work is I don't want to just live in the realm of like spirituality or awareness building, etc. Those parts are so significant and they matter so much. But I do want to bridge it into actual tangible strategy, which is like getting your advisory board or investors or building out the brand or scaling a team or enhancing your leadership skills. So I'm kind of taking what I would say the inner awakening and aligning it with the external structures that will support that. And I think that that combo feels really, really important. And how the feminine economy plays a piece in this. And also, I am not responsible for that terminology. There's this website, it's sisters.io. They have a whole book on the feminine economy. And it's really just about like, how do we build infrastructures for work and leadership that's about generosity and reciprocity and compassion and empathy. And I want to be really clear is that it's not over indexing on feminine energy where you kind of become like a pushover or people pleasing, etc. It's that knowing that like there is a better way to do business that's more reciprocal, that's more generative, that's more resource. And I think as I continue to embody it myself and kind of to go back to the last month that I had, what I'm also recognizing is it's an infrastructure that forces you to let go of control. And I think women love being in control because we're kind of inherently set up from the get-go. I don't want to say to fail, but we're set up in structures that don't support us. They were made and built for men. So we're like, fingers on chalkboard trying to get where we want to go because we live within structures that aren't supportive of us. So when you start to embody this way of being, where you are more reciprocal, where you are more generous, again, it's not overdoing it. It's not like not having boundaries, but where I like to almost like metaphorically, it's like strong backbone, open heart, like that's kind of how I want to like be in my life. All of a sudden, I think you start to trust things more. I think you let go more. And I don't know about you, Maddie, but for me, like, talk about an outdated operating system. Every time I worry right now, I'm like, ugh, this feels complete for me. Like, obviously, it's not because it still shows up from time to time, but I'm like, this is the worst way of being for me, is in a worried, future forward, anxious space. It's just like dysregulated nervous system focusing on shit that's completely outside of my control.
Yeah. No, for me, it's the fear based mindset of like, am I working hard enough? Like, am I going to get there? Like, is it going to be, I don't know. Like, I think deep down, like my greatest fear is that I can work my ass off and not get what I want. And that is almost an oxymoron when you say it out loud. Like, those two things to not be compatible, like, don't make any sense. And to your point, it does absolutely feel, it's the opposite of what you were describing earlier, where it's this childlike wonder and life feels limitless. And I think we forget about what that feels like. And even just you saying it in passing made me start to be like, damn, what, I need to go back there sometimes and really think about who I was, what brought me joy, what are the little things that I bring with me today that invigorate and inspire and motivate in a way that is like pushing me forward beyond what any, motivational speech could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like, to me, it's like even hearing you say the like work my ass off and not get what I want. It's like I even want women to reframe that, where it's like, how can we be more relaxed and get what we want?
Mm.
How can we be more playful and get what we want. Like that, to me, it's like that is what we were taught is you have to work your ass off. And listen, like I am an ambitious, I really, really, really value being like industrious and like I value discipline. And also, I don't want to overwork anymore. Like hustle culture and boss babes. Like I want to be a relaxed woman who
Yes.
also gets what she wants. And I think all women want that. Like that's the crazy thing. All women want that. They want to be able to tend to these other parts of themselves and feel joyous and free and sensual and pleasureful. And when we get into that, like, must work harder, which I'm guilty of myself, by all means, it's like you're totally bifurcating this super important part of yourself, which is like source, Mother Earth.
Yeah. No, God, that was such a helpful reframe. Like to think about it instead from how can I be more playful? Because that's what I want.
Yes.
And I think
like, look at this incredible piece of artwork behind you that's like totally this like whimsical. I'm like, obviously that's inside of you. I also feel like you have like a turntable. Like I'm like, so is that what it is? It's like I'm so curious. So I'm like already so curious. And, and to me it's like, how do you bring like we are the environments that we put ourselves in. So how are you creating an environment that allows you to be that person? Who are you spending your time with? What content are you listening to? Like it's funny saying this on a podcast, but it's like, I don't listen to work podcasts. I listen to like, I don't really listen to that many because it's like just too much input for me while I listen all day. But I just want like silliness when I'm listening. I want something that makes me laugh. Like, I'm just like, that's the energy that I want more of right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a great thing to bring forward. And I think actually part of the reason that we are afraid that, if we don't work super hard, it's because we're being pushed in the other direction. I think like, being afraid of if you work really hard, you're not going to get what you want. It's almost because you're like, I think you look down that path and it causes fear because it's not the right place to go. And instead, when I think about how can I be almost like the most me to get what I want,
Yes.
that is exciting. Like that
Yes.
feels really fun. That is way more intriguing to me than the alternative. And especially as I embark on this entrepreneurial journey, I recognize I'm not alone and there's a lot of support and I'll have a team eventually and I'll bring on people who know more than me in certain areas and can fill the gaps in my strengths. But right now, like it's me and it feels heavy sometimes, but I try to make sure that like anytime it feels heavy, I bring back why I'm doing this. And that brings the excitement and the fun back to it. And then you're like, okay, yeah, no, we're good.
I think it's so essential to Maddie as a female entrepreneur is you have to be in community with other women doing the same thing in some way, shape, or form. Like I think it's, and I run a female founder community, but so much of it is like, I don't want it when it's just skill based and networking, it can still fall flat. It's actually like a community that's like the real talk, the whole self, what it means to play this role and this role and this role and run a business. And so I just think it's so essential that is a part of any female founder, female leaders ecosystem is that level of support.
I have a few girls in the city that I connect with on a regular basis who are either in early stages or building something of some sort. Like one of them's an author, one of them's doing tech, one of them's doing also like beauty. And those conversations I look forward to them. They are incredibly uplifting. And sometimes I'll text her and be like, how much research did you do? Some of this like really tactical stuff, like how much is too much? And then the other times we're talking, it's on a much, to your point, like more whole self type of energy where you're like, this is hard, or this is making me uncomfortable, or like, this is a totally new way of living that I've never experienced. And I deeply understand now that I'm experiencing it, why people say that it's so isolating. Because it's not really, you can talk about it with your other friends.
Mhm.
And ironically, I've been doing this podcast for 3 years and
That's so
talking
amazing, Maddie.
to, but
Yeah.
I've been talking to founders and relating to them on an emotional level, like as an empathetic person. But now to be experiencing it from the first person, I feel like I have a totally different appreciation for their experience. And it's so, yes, again, I can talk about this with friends and family, like what I'm doing and what I'm going through. But until you sit down with other women who are a part of the same experience, it's just a totally different ballgame because I feel like you just feel seen and heard.
It's
And
totally different.
right?
Yeah. It's funny. I'm thinking about a girlfriend of mine who was starting a business a few years ago and had worked in corporate previously. We went on a walk. We've laughed about this a little bit afterwards, but we went on a walk and, she was like, I can totally like get this off the ground and have it be kind of like all the things in the next 8 to 12 months. And it's not that I don't think that's possible. I've just both been an entrepreneur for so long and coached so many entrepreneurs that I'm like, the success stories that you see have 10 years of ginormous grit behind them. And you need a lot of support in that space because it is just, I just think being an entrepreneur and being a founder is the ultimate opportunity for healing.
Yes.
And so all your shit comes up. And to your point, you need both types of resourcing. You need the resourcing, which is like, where do I get the UX designer, or who's someone who can help me build a, like a financial model, which now we can do a lot of these things with AI, which, pros and cons.
Yeah.
You need all of that tactical stuff. But what you also need is someone where you're like, I had a really, really slow month. Did you have a slow month? Or I felt super unmotivated. Did you feel unmotivated? Have you felt unmotivated? You need both because it just normalizes the entire experience.
Yes.
And the experience is a roller coaster, as it should be.
And it's crazy that you say that because this is something I've been saying for years. And it is truly the reason I have always wanted to be a founder. It's why I'm drawn to other founders. I'm incredibly inspired by entrepreneurship as a thing because I see it as like a microcosm for our experience with human beings. It mirrors and is pressure tested this experience. And so like it must be why I came to this life for this experience because I'm so drawn to that. Like it's just growth on growth on growth on growth. And I sometimes look and I'd be like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? But I also know like in my bones that this is the right call.
And it's amazing. It's amazing. I think it also preps you. And again, this doesn't have to be the path at all. I have found that because I've been an entrepreneur for so long, how do I want to say this? So being a parent is like the hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm used to a lot of ups and downs. Like I'm just kind of like used to uncertainties and inconsistencies and just kind of like riding waves of things. And so I think or at least I hope that and this also comes with like years and years of personal development work and spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on it. But it's like, I hope that when my son is dysregulated, I am able to hold a greater space of regulation, which I think is in part because of many repetitions in entrepreneurship.
The reps you put in business prepare you better to deal with life. And it makes you
and
better.
Vice versa. The reps you put in, with life and how you choose to engage with life are going to prepare you better for entrepreneurship. I think it goes both ways.
Okay. 2 last questions before we wrap up. First is anyone listening, what is like if you were to look at all the people who are listening to this episode who are sitting poised with pen and paper looking for something that they can do to, either like reframe their mind around being a stronger, more effective leader or human being. I know this is such a broad question, but I just feel like you're going to come up with something really useful for someone that I can't think of. Like, what would you say? What would you say to the people in this situation?
Okay, so there's like so many things that I could say, but I'm going to say the first thing that came to my mind. And it's funny because I was on a call yesterday with like a woman I've known many years in the past, and we just reconnected in like the last 15 years later, and we're doing very similar work. And she was talking about how she hosts these events with founders, and she has them at the dinner write a letter to their future self that they promise to read 30 years into the future, which I love. But I said a little inverse. I actually think where the opportunity lies is write a letter to your current self from your future self, your elder self, the 70-year-old you, that vividly paints a picture of how it all worked out. Even if there was struggle, loss, tragedy, because there will be, like, that's just inevitable. But to kind of like full circle it back to like life is happening for you is like, take the future leader in you, the elder leader in you, the 70-year-old leader in you, and sit down with a cup of coffee in a private space and write a letter to your current self about where she is. Like, dear Maddie, I'm sitting here at 70. Let me tell you about the home that you live in and the spaces that you get to go spend time in and how your time is spent and what you're wearing and what you built for yourself. Take it from that approach, because your elder self is like going to treat your current self like the sweetest kid that just like needs a big warm hug. Okay, that's what I came up. There's like a million things that I could do, but that was the first thing that came to mind.
No, that was so perfect. It was a situation where I'm like, I'm asking this question and I don't know what I'm asking or why I'm asking it, but I'm just that was so good. Okay, my last question is something that I always do at the end of episodes. I call it the founder stack, which is just 7 rapid fire questions about your journey so far.
Great.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. It's so funny as you say this. So whenever podcast hosts do these like rapid things, so a way that my brain does not work is like trivia or an actress in a movie or a song that I loved. And whenever I hear these people interviewed, I'm like, I would be totally fucked if they were asking me this, not because I don't have a favorite book or a movie or an artist, but because I can't retain, like, my brain is filled with feelings. And so as long as we're not doing trivia, game on. I'm ready.
It's a little bit of a mix.
Great. We'll see how it goes. I'm owning that is a underdeveloped part of my brain.
It's okay. I always go blank when people are like, what's a fun fact? I'm like, I've never done anything interesting.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Okay. What is a tool that you live and die by?
8 hours of sleep a night.
Great.
I am like a sleep forward, go to bed early. Like sleep is my bomb.
Yeah. I don't do well with anything less than 8 hours.
Like, and I'm just like, I will go to bed so early to ensure that it happens, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what is the best money you've spent on your business under $5,000?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would probably say that it was the initial engagement. I started very, very, very project-based with my current office manager, and she was basically just taking, when you're a solopreneur, and I'm no longer a solopreneur, but when you're a solopreneur, everything lives in your brain. And she started to take out all of the stuff in my brain and make SOPs so that other people could relate to it. And I feel like that was the best thing. That was like starting to get shit that was only inside of my head out onto paper. And so someone else could run my business.
I hear a lot of advice around that and like taking the time as a founder to
especially
do that.
Especially initially, because otherwise you have to undo years of it being like bottled up inside of you. Yes.
Okay. What is a book or resource that has influenced your entrepreneurial experience?
There's a lot. There's so many books that have influenced. There's one that is coming to see, of course, this is when I'm telling, oh, I know what it's called. This is like there's this book called The Awakened Brain. It's by a doctor. She has a PhD. I'm not actually sure. I don't remember if she's a doctor, called Lisa Miller. And it's both research based around like the neuroscience of spirituality, but also how that gets applied in real time to leaders, to healing, etc. And it's beautifully written. It's written through storytelling. I feel like she's such an expander and amplifying human for me. And I just think, and what I like is that I'm not a big fan. I get why people are drawn to these books that are like, let me break down this really complex topic and give me super tangible. I don't think life works like that. So I feel like she is taking complex topics and storytelling them and kind of telling you what to do with them, but she's not promising that if you do these 3 steps, you're going to be healed. Like it's a little bit more, it's a little more depthful in those ways.
I agree, because I also think that everybody applies wisdom differently, and what 3 things worked for somebody might not work for others. And so I think if you keep it in like a way that's a little bit more philosophical, then people...
I mean, I think that one of the immediate things that comes to mind is that like the busier I was, the more successful I am. And I feel like the thing that I value more than anything else in my, maybe not anything, but it's real high up there, is spaciousness. I like feeling spacious. And I notice that the more spacious I am, the more time I have to myself to like be in creative thinking, actually the better my business does. It's so funny. Yesterday was like 70 and sunny out, and it's like blizzarding outside right now. So I'm just watching it go by, like, wow, global warming, and it's like fullest effect. I am so lucky to be in a partnership with someone that I feel like, how did I get so lucky in this lifetime to be with this person? And I feel like at the end of the day, especially once we pick up my son, we just do like a couple walks around the block. And I just feel like that's like the whole point, isn't it? Like, that's kind of the whole point. So, and no matter what the weather is, we tend to do that. So that feels like at this chapter and current moment in my life, that feels really sacred to me. Nice. Right. If I lived by the beach still, that would be mine. I'm like such a water girl, and I live in a mountain state. So that's its own topic of conversation. I like always immediately think of the women that I work with and brands that I work with. I'll just say one, which is Care of Chan. And it's very inspiring to me, because I do think that it's like very aligned with the cultural zeitgeist. Like it's a PR agency, for lack of a better word, that really partners brands with these events. It's an event production company to really bolster these brands or these experiences or these people, etc. But what I think is so cool about how Sue is creating it is like at the heart of it, it's about that gathering people in real time changes and shifts culture. And I think she's so steadfast with that like reason of being in the why, while also having impeccable taste. And I'm a beauty person, and I like care about fashion, and I care about the table scale. I care about all that stuff. So I think that she does that really, really impeccably, and she's very committed to her leadership growth and development. Amazing. Yes. This is so fun. Of course, this is the question that you're asking me. Well, I have been doing a little bit of Lily Allen's latest album. I'm just going to say that one. I feel like power to her, man. I feel like it's a super exquisite, eloquent album of her just being like a badass. It's also like, it's one of those albums that actually experientially, when you listen to it, it really, like, you get the whole arc of the experience, which I think is pretty awesome.
New album called...
Love her. Yep. Beautiful. Also beautiful. Yes. I also love Harry Styles' new album. Just going to put that out there. Well, so I heard that he was influenced by LCD Sound System. And actually, if you're listening to the album, it sounds like it's a very particular LCD Sound System album that came out when I was like, I want to say like 25, when I was living in San Francisco and going to parties, and like there's a particular person in my life that I just like went deep into that album with. So I don't know. I have a sweet spot for it. Also, I'm like a Harry Styles fan. So yes, exactly. It's so funny. So basically, as you can now learn, I do love, I love pop. I like lots of music, but I do love pop. So I'm happy to own that.
I'm a Swiftie.
Happy. Thank you, Maddie. And I'm so excited for you and your next chapter. And just thank you for trusting me to share anything with your listeners. So thank you.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. You can find all the links to connect with Allie in the show notes. If you feel called to support the podcast, leave a review. That's always the most impactful. If you're looking for more, I would be deeply honored if you simply wanted to buy my watcha this week. The link is below. And if you enjoyed this episode and are looking for more before the next one, dive into the well on Substack. There you'll find more founder wisdom and essays on entrepreneurship. See you guys next week.